Was my journey because I was blessed with having my last child just 3 years ago to replace, perhaps in some divine work of God, the child that I lost in 1986. And I carried that inspiration with me that I would like to see a better life for kids. And not only for him, but the kids of that group growing into the next generation. So that the torch that has been, and the battles that have been won for us from Dr. Gerdari and the other leaders before us must pass from generation to generation. And that is, if you do not take anything from this room today, you must take the fact that we need political empowerment and we need to take a seat at the table. Because that is where all the decisions are made. That is where it counts. And that is where it matters. Because at the end of the day, unless we can occupy that table, we will forever be living as second-class citizens in this great land of America, the land of the free and the home of the brave. And we will never be able to live the American dream as it should surely be lived. And we'll never be able to embrace the greatness of America. We will always be on the outside, looking in. Now, the great Mahatma Gandhi said that you must be the change you want to see in the world. And that must be the guiding inspiration for each and every one of us today. That we must take the mantle of leadership, and that we must similarly be able to set by our lives in whatever field, as Dr. Gerdari was saying, in whatever field we embrace, whether it's in the political field, whether it's in the legal field, whether it's in the economic field, we must be able to show that example to the world that we have come and we have arrived, and that therefore we are therefore mentors and leaders in this society. It is not a stroke of genius, nor is it mere coincidence that you would find that Indo-Caribbean districts are divided into all sorts of nonsensical equations. If you look at the shape of the districts, you will find that there's no logical sequence to having these districts shaped like that. As a matter of fact, Richmond Hill community has been divided into 2 districts. First, one belongs to Councilman Tom White, and the other one to Councilman Joseph Adabo, an Italian-American. And hence, we're not being able to put together the votes to win that one seat, the council seat. Nor are we able to put together the votes in the assembly district, because it's divided by Assemblywoman Michelle Pfeiffer, an Italian-American, Michelle Titus, who's an Afro-American, Brian McLaughlin, now replaced by Rory Lansman, who's a Jewish-American, but we have never had a single seat, as it should be, where people of one origin and people of one commonality, like Indo-Caribbeans or from whatever part of the world, are able to occupy a seat at the table so that we can have common resources and common goals, common problems answered. And that is not mere coincidence. That is where we need to send a message to those that draw these districts and to the political powers that be, that we need a seat at the table. We need our own district just like everyone else. This is what democracy is all about, that everyone should have a stake in how their affairs are done. After all, we pay taxes just like everyone else, and we make the same sacrifices. As a matter of fact, we make more, because the janitors and the cashiers and the babysitters and the many of us who get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and come back till in the evenings at 8 o'clock come from our community. Those that go on the train and go to New Jersey and have to leave their homes for a whole week. Those are the people that come from our community so that the Wall Street tycoons can take home their millions whilst we slave in submenial tasks at below minimum wage, and we help to progress them and propel them further to economic prosperity. And they make that based on our backs. They build their wealth on our backs. But in introspection, we have a lot to blame because of the fact that we are also not very active in the political arena. We have come with a stigma that politics is dirty. Politics is not for me. Politics is something we should not be involved in. Well, brothers and sisters, that is one of the worst mistakes that we have made as a community. Because of the fact that if we don't get involved, no one is going to do it for you. No one is going to give you a seat on a platter. It's not going to happen, and you would have a cycle of from generation to generation living in a subhuman form in America. So we are always the bridesmaids, but we are never the bride. We always playing catch up with someone else, and we always feel the wealth that we have gained, the houses we have, the 1- and 2-family homes, that this is the American dream. This is where I've achieved everything. This is where it starts, this is where it begins, this is where it ends. And I can tap myself on the shoulder and say, I have lived the American dream. But that is only the beginning of the dream. And you as leaders, by the very fact that you're here today, you're confirming to us that you're leaders of the communities to which you belong. And you must take back that similar message, that we must not only become citizens, most people become citizens just to sponsor their family to come to the United States. And that is a fallacy because of the fact that you should become citizens not only to access better federal jobs, but you should become citizens so that you can have a stake in the political affairs from city to federal level. Other ethnicities have done it, and it's time for the Indo-Caribbean community to stand up together and to do just that, or you will still be left behind. The pillar-to-post syndrome is something we cannot be moving from country to country. From India, come to as indentured servants to Guyana, come to America as semi-indentured servants or as second-class citizens, and say, well, okay, this cycle continues. Where are we going to go next? To Australia when we can't live the American dream, and then condemn the sacrifices that we have made and for future generations to live in that cycle. That's just not what it's all about. Charity begins at home, and that is what we have to get done. So what I would encourage you to do is, when you go home, you call all your family, tell them to become citizens, and tell them to go out and vote. Because becoming citizens is not only about accessing federal jobs and getting sponsoring your family. It is also about voting, and it's also about running for office. It's also about getting empowered so that we can be on the radar screen of the county organizations, of the state senate, and of such other places, so that we can show to them that we need a seat at the table, that these people do matter, and that they're here to make a statement. And that is what I've been doing as a lawyer and as a community advocate, because I found that as a lawyer, you're curtailed by the laws. And unless you change the laws to help your community, for example, I ran against Sheriff Maltese, who was in office since 1988. No one ever dared to run against him. He was the chair of the Republican Senate District. I'm the only fool, quote unquote, so to speak, as I said, to dare to run against such a man. And yet I almost unseated him. And I announced my candidacy to run against him next year so I can complete a job. You know what was his major piece of legislation? His main claim to fame that he wanted to legalize racial profiling in New York State, meaning that any person of color, that includes just about 95% of us in this room, would be stopped and profiled by the very color of our skin per se, and nothing more. That they would look at the person, for example, that's Sikh and mistake them for terrorists, very mistakenly, and stereotype beliefs, wrong stereotypes, and look at all the Indo-Caribbeans who are honest, hard-working people, and other minorities such as us, and profile us. And then they will have the right to arrest us and detain us without any reasonable cause. So he was planning to change the law upside down, and this is supposed to be the bastion of democracy, the land of the free, the home of the brave, and the land where we lead the world in democracy. And that was a crying shame. So I'd had enough of that. Thankfully, that bill is no longer going to be passed, but we have to be vigilant, because they will come again with things like this. They will come to things that divide your community, and they will come with situations where you'll be continue to be pushed aside. And if we don't be very vigilant and be very active and participatory, we will not be able to get to that level that we truly belong. So the orphan children syndrome, as I call it, we must stop being orphan children. We have to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. We have to be able to look at someone and say, I'm equal to that person. God made us in his own likeness. I may be different, and I may not be like other folks, but all of us in our own ways are God's gift to humanity. And in each and every one of you, you have to live your life to the fullest and to the maximum. And never be able to say, well, I think I may just not be as good as that other person. Because you owe it to your children for generations to come, that you'll be able to tell them and to show by your works that you consider yourself just as equal to any American, because you are Americans. That's what it is. We can't think of ourselves as a Guyanese American, a Surinamese American, a Trinidad American, a person of wherever you're from, because the fact of the matter is that you have to think of yourself as Americans. You have to assimilate and you have to live the dream just like everyone else. And you've got to show leadership in that position so that when you go out there, you can tell them and send the message to all. Brothers and sisters, I thank you very much for your time and patience. There'll be another time I'll be able to take questions for you after, or you can meet and talk to me. I've sent out some handouts, if you can kindly distribute them, Pooja. I think you have them there, or where it is? Yeah, for you can read up on the race and how far we went. So I hope to bring that seat home so at least we can have a seat at the table and to set an example for others to follow. Thank you very much. Namaste.
Very well done. The next speaker